why am I so angry with my partner? Why am I shouting at the kids? Why can't I volunteer for this thing like other mums can? And I think grace is really important in those moments, just to be able to say, you know what, under these circumstances, I'm doing really well. I'm still there for my kids. I'm not the shiniest person ever, but it's understandable that we can't hold it all, and being able to extend grace to ourselves is probably the greatest gift we could give ourselves and those around us.
How would I relate to this if I actually knew that I was enough? If I knew that I was totally enough and I was also tired and I didn't have to prove that I'm hardworking or present or a good mom or a good partner. I'm enough and I'm tired. These incredible leaders who I would love to be are receiving awards because they are constantly available and do a lot of things. And I struggle with it because there was not a single person up there who was verbally congratulated for their boundaries or for doing less, but being present when they are. It might be affirmed back to them in some ways, but I had a moment where I struggled.
Welcome to the Peri Moon podcast, and today I am joined by my beautiful friend Sheridan Ruth. Sheridan is a nervous system specialist, and I was so blessed to have her as a guest coach in the Peri Moon app when we were in the thick of that. Sheridan, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I've been really selective over the past year or so about how I spend my time as it relates to work. And I was really excited when you reached out because one of the things that I've been being really mindful to do less of is just be in spaces where we're looking for what I feel or would like call is kind of something superficial or fix energy, just like being in that space where you're I don't know, there's like a lacking of depth, especially I think lately I think we've all felt this, like the whole AI, social media, marketing, like everything is an ad. I don't know. So it was exciting when you reached out about the podcast because I knew that yes, this would be a space where I could just kind of talk without having to bottle myself into without having to like reframe it or like work my language into a box of some sort. So listeners, I'm really excited that you're here because I'm hoping and I feel confident that we're going to be able to speak about things that we might be thinking really deep down inside, but maybe not saying or we don't have words for. Um, and so I'm really happy that we're all on this journey together.
Oh, I thank you. And that's absolutely the intention of this podcast is for like I've got deep in all of my marketing material. It's that is my modus operandi. That is my absolute guiding light is for things to be deep because I feel the same. I feel like you hop on Instagram and things are like a 10-second, you know, a little a snippet of something that should be a 3-hour conversation. And I feel like AI is just diluting everything down to this is the top 10 tips you need. Um, so I'm so grateful to have you here and to have you here with that intention as well. It's just so profound for me. And I'm so grateful to have you here and for us to explore all of the crevices and whatever comes up without any need to like feel like we have an agenda. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, so you were a guest coach in when the Peri Moon app was in the thick of it when I was very much operating from a, a kind of dysregulation. I think I needed something to occupy me at that time, something big and meaty as I was going through divorce. And it was a beautiful alchemical experience, but I won't say it was the most regulating experience. It was kind of a beast. And the feedback I got from other women, especially, and I've experienced it myself, was what you do with the nervous system is so practical and tangible. And I think a lot of the time women feel very much like I have so much stress. Like we just compound our stress upon stress upon stress, work stress, home stress, family stress, relationship stress, every stress, and we compound it. And then it becomes a huge monster that we can't even comprehend being able to tackle. And I feel like a lot of women actually shy away from any form of nervous system work or self-care because they just feel like it's too big to even begin with. And that's what I loved about your work is it's not an instant fix, but even being able to shift the physiology for just a second can really change the way we think about things, and help us to be able to, settle a little bit more into the present. And I'm so grateful that you gave me that experience and the women of, that were in the app had that experience. And yeah, thank you so much for that.
Yeah, thank you. I like hearing that because as much as I hate quick fixes, like we have to have like an anchor or a place to hold on to something, right? And I think like even this morning as I was getting ready, I had something come up that I need to do today later on, and it kind of threw, and I had a couple of things, and it honestly threw me into a dysregulated state because, in my mind I was like, this is my day, this is my Sunday, like this is the one day a week where I do not have to show up for anyone else and I just do what I want. And I got thrown by it, and I really needed in that moment something to kind of circuit break my own thoughts that are just like, because I was like, okay, I had this thought. I was like, maybe I should meditate. And then I was like, oh my God, I would have to meditate. Like, I just like, and I was like, oh, now then my thoughts went to, I'm going to have to completely redo my entire life. Like, now I should have like a different systems. And then I was like, no, Sheridan, you've been in that one too. You don't need to like create a system right now. You actually just need to experience calm in this moment. So I went back to the thought, oh, I should regulate. And then, I mean, I should meditate. And that felt so big. And what I ended up doing was just asking, it's just so simple, which is this question of what is the story that my body is telling? And then what is objectively true? And in my book, we talk about these nervous system stories. And the story that my body was telling was like, I was like very, I would say not super activated, like what I would call the yellow zone, which is like a fight flight situation, but like slightly activated of like, I don't have enough time. There's so many things to do. I've got to write a list, like, that little frantic place that I was in that place yesterday in a really good way because I was having a busy day and I was alive and it was just like, oh my God, there was such great things happening. And it was like an alive state. And um, I was running around the house, so excited, picking this thing up, packing my bag. But in that moment, I was in that state of like, I don't have enough time. There's not enough time. There are so many things to do. Oh my God, I always have to do things for everyone. When do I get to sit down for myself? Um, and I just took that story and then I looked at it, like in my mind, I looked at it and I was like, I can't remember the question I asked, but in the book, we talk about just like what would another story be from a place of regulation, and we give some examples of what those stories would be. Number one, it never has urgency, and number two, there's never like a lot of pressure around it. Last night I did the same thing, and the question I asked myself was like, how would I feel about this if I knew I had all the time in the world? Helps me kind of get out of that. And then I was like, okay, cool. I do have to do all of these things. These are all things that need to be done today, but I get to choose how they're done, when they're done, and in which order they are done, and how I feel as I go about them, and how complicated I make either of them. I have to make some food. I don't need to make it into this whole, like, I have agency in that. And even that's not like a traditional, it's not like an Instagram worthy way of talking about regulation. But what I did in that moment was I just reminded my body that I have agency, which makes me feel more regulated because this equation that my body is doing is how big am I in contrast to my problems. Um, so, yes, they need to be deep and they need to be nuanced, but they've also got to be really practical when I have 6 minutes
Mm.
before I need to take a phone call and get someone out the door and do this other thing. And I don't want to do it from a place of overwhelm.
I love that. And yeah, I do. I just feel like the power of story is so transcendent, and its capacity to take us out of experiences that we feel like we have no agency, that we feel, almost a victimhood in. And we can take ourselves out of that and become the hero in any moment, and it's
Mm.
the story that makes us we're only as strong as the story we tell ourselves, really. And once we ask ourselves those types of questions, is like, what do I have power over here? And what can I move? And what would feel good to me? And what would be easy in this moment? And we start to ask ourselves that, we can begin to grow as the character of our own story, really.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting as well, like when we look at it even from the perimenopause side of things, which I found myself doing a lot with Peri Moon. And as the more that I've learned about how the nervous system works and like, your body's taking in all of this information, it takes it up through your senses to through the ascending reticular activating system. And then that activates your prefrontal, which is like the limbic system. Then that activates your prefrontal cortex. Your prefrontal cortex basically creates a story to help understand all of the sensation that's happening in your body. And so it happens after, and it's shaped by our past experiences and like all of these beliefs and memories that we have and what other people have told us makes sense. And it's just so interesting how we can have the same physiological experience and have a different story, or we can go through something in our life. Even like, I was thinking recently about difficulties of like change in career or like uncertainty. And I've just noticed myself, I was like, oh, I could tell this story about what's happening, or I could tell this story about what's happening. If I tell this story about what's happening, I feel pretty good. And there's no reason why that wouldn't be true. So why am I,
Mm.
why? And I think there's just so much power. Even I think about like love, like bringing that one in. So we spoke about it just briefly. I feel like one of the things that's made, I recently got engaged, and one of the things that's been really beautiful for our relationship, and I think we can credit actually a lot of the strength that our relationship has, is the story. It's a beautiful love story. And all of our community have reinforced this story to us, and they tell us and they use their words and they say, you guys, like, you show us, and you are like the goals for us. And they just like place upon us their words. And it it helps us when we're having our dysregulated moments, I think, because that's our story and that's
Mm.
what we remember. And so we're like, no, we are Sheridan and Canal. We would never speak to each other like that because we are Sheridan and Canal. Does that make sense?
I am misty-eyed, goosebumpy, like, ah, I love this so much. And I feel like, yeah, I'm in a very similar situation with everything being, my family reinforcing things, my friends reinforcing. I'm in a very, very similar situation. And it absolutely, I just feel like, yeah, story can absolutely transcend the mundanity of
Mm,
situations, and give us, that. And I think this is what religion does for people and spirituality can do for people. But if we're even extracting those down to their essence, they're really just stories. And to be able to have those stories that you can hold on tightly to and be like, this is what our story is, and this is how our archetypes behave within that story. um yeah, I adore that. I adore that for you. And I'm just so happy for you. And I can feel the love. And I'm so, so honored to be in the midst of such reverence.
can you give me, thank you. And can you give me an example of like those archetypes? I'm curious. I agree, and I'm intrigued by the use of the word archetype. Like, what are you thinking?
Well, you're in a love story. and you would be the
Mm,
lovers behaving within that
mm,
story. You're not going to be,
mm.
you're not going to come out and be the jester and just start,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
those things where you see, oh, he was joking all the time, but it was really mean, or things like that. It's like, no, you are in a love story and you are behaving as lovers, and this is how you treat each other, and this is the unwritten rules of your relationship is we are the lovers and we treat each other with reverence, and you are my beloved and my soulmate and my twin flame, whatever it may be that that
Yes.
story encapsulates for you. But that almost creates the capsule of how you engage with each other.
Yeah. Yep. 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 So then how do you think, like, what are the unwritten stories that most people are carrying, let's just say around perimenopause? What are the archetypes that are playing out there?
Oh, I've got my archetypes that are playing out. Um, but I think, to be honest, I think there's a lot of really unconscious behaviors going on for most of society. I think once you get to the point of an archetype, you kind of have a feel of what's going on for you. Like you kind of
Mm,
have a sense of there's not as much fragmentation. And I think a lot of what society does these days, and probably for a very long time, just through social media or media in general and the stories we're being told, most of that fragments us. Like you're meant to be doing this, you're meant to go to, do school,
mm,
uni, get the job, get the husband, get the house, the kids, all of that. And I think it really fragments us away from our own sense of intuition and instinct. I find that in perimenopause, the archetypes that become really evident are based on having a greater sense of self-awareness. And it's through that, like the transition of perimenopause, when your estrogen starts to wane and all fucks are abandoning us, and it's like, okay, well, I can start living for me now, and I can start making choices based on what I truly want and not carrying everything for everyone else. And then things like the mystic might appear, where it's like, oh, I really want to start, getting more into a conscious relationship with earth or the seasons, or astrology or things like that. Like that's probably one of the first ones you start seeing is women having an interest in their own intuition and
mm.
tapping back into their own intuition, which I think is such, I think that's where women's power lies, and I think society tries a lot to sway us from that.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that statement. It's almost like, I don't, what I kind of hear as well is that, and this might be true for most hormonal changes or anything in life or imbalances, including something like endometriosis or something, in anything in life that forces or causes us to have not really much of a choice, but to get back in contact with our body. I feel like probably what happens in those moments is like you either just like accept it and surrender and you're like, okay, cool. We've got to figure out what's going on in this body. We have to get back into it. I have to address these things. Um, or you go completely the other way and you try to avert over it. And that is but you become a little bit radicalized. And it's been my observation and personal experience that almost solidifies your inner archetype a little bit more. So like maybe the mystic would come out and there's this like deep intuition, or maybe for somebody else, it makes you. I'm getting like a Kali type, like this righteous, that righteous leadership. Like it's a very healthy righteousness. It's like, no, 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 like that is not okay. And I have no fucks to give. And we are fixing that problem because that is not okay in the world, or like but those are genuinely deep and true to those individuals, but we only were able to get there when we sifted away all of the other like noise, I think, that stops us from being in deep contact with that little gem inside of us.
I love that you bring up Carly because I think she's such she's probably the, role model of true femininity in balance, that creator destructor, that,
Mm,
we can't have creation without destruction. And that's probably the thing that, if I don't like blaming the patriarchy for
yeah.
everything, but, and I love men, and it's not a man problem. It's just, whenever any organizations are very vulnerable to corruption on any level. So that, um, I do feel like Kali is something that women across the board should really experience and should really delve into a little bit more to understand it is okay to rage. It is part of our nature is to rage. The mama bear is terrifying. Um, yeah, I absolutely love that you bring her up, because I feel like, oh, so much of my experience has come from allowing myself to feel things that weren't feminine. And I absolutely, to loop back to what you were saying about disease and, women's conditions. I've had it all, like endo, infertility, hyperfertility, miscarriage, breast cancer. I've had all of them, and every single one is like, come back further into your feminine. We're not just going to Nurofen our
Mm,
way through this and go to work 9 to 5, come back into the feminine, deepen, 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 soften, 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 rage where you need to rage, create boundaries where you need to create boundaries. But every single one of them is an initiation. Absolutely.
mm. So what's your advice then when people, like, I have my own, but I'm curious yours, when people just like really genuinely have to navigate, let's just say a 9 to 5, or let's say carrying commitments or something, when there are these external things that are required of them that are really hard on their bodies. What do you recommend? What do you say?
I think, firstly, grace with yourself. I think a lot of women aren't carrying the stress of it at work. I think they carry it home with them, and then they beat themselves up because it's like, I'm not the best mom, or I'm not, able to do all of these things. And I think being able to have grace
Mm.
across the board is super important. Like, that's probably the biggest thing I find is women, we can mask so well in the 9 to 5, and that's mostly where it doesn't show up. It shows up outside of that when we can drop the mask. And it's like, why am I so angry with my partner? Or why am I shouting at the kids? Or why can't I, volunteer for this thing like other mums can? I think grace is really important in those moments, just to be able to say, you know what, I'm under these circumstances, I'm doing really well. I'm still there for my kids. I'm not the shiniest person ever, but um, it's understandable that we can't hold it
Mm.
all, and being able to, yeah, to extend grace to ourselves is probably the greatest gift we could give ourselves and those around us. If we can model grace to our
Mm.
children and to our community, I think that's probably going to mean more than any, you know, therapeutic intervention probably could.
Yeah. And thinking about the story in that, I think the story that's happening under there is like, I should volunteer for these things. I should be this specific version of present for my kid after work, or I should do this. And I just wonder, like, if I was to use my own trick that I used myself this morning, maybe next time I'm in a situation like that where I feel like I've got to, for me, it feels like a pushing through, like, yeah, everything's fine, of course. I think the question that I would ask myself is like, how would I feel about this, or how would I behave if I knew that me having this physical experience was like also perfect, or how would I move about this? I didn't say this one initially because I don't like this question and I found it really hard to answer. It's really used, but I think that I've come to a point where I understand it a little bit differently. So if it resonates for you, take it. If it doesn't, just move it away. Which is, how would I relate to this if I actually knew that I was enough? If I knew that I was
Oh,
totally enough And I was also tired. And I didn't have to prove that I'm hardworking or present or a good mom or a good partner. I just, I'm enough and I'm tired. How would I make dinner?
God, Sheridan. Oh, that just hit me so deep in my heart. Mm. And I've, single mum most of the time, primary care of my kids. So for me, I've really had to come to a place of being like, I can't do everything. And I'm actually starting to feel like 50% is enough. And it's such a glorious
Mm.
place to land. But again, I think, and I haven't really thought about Carly in such a long time. So I love that you brought her up because she's such a dominant archetype when we're traversing these experiences that require us to be able to be a feminine version that's not just soft and demure and catering to everyone else. And I feel like being able to be, you know, angry sometimes or upset sometimes or, be able to sit in the experience of not being perfect. I think she's a really great role model for that as well. But gosh, yeah, how would, woof, I can't even remember the question, but just the way you said enough got me.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wrote it down for myself as well to like remember for the rest of the day. I don't know if it's like this. I have a friend of mine who's like kind of just having something that she has to do with her business, and she's really afraid of like her reputation if she fails, like what will people think of her, of her career. And I keep coming back to that question as well of like fear of failure is one thing, but fear of losing reputation or not being enough if you fail, like because sometimes it's like we're not afraid of failing, we're afraid of what that would mean about us.
Mm.
The failure, you figure it out, you just get through it, you find another way to make money, I don't know, like, but it's like what does this mean? And it comes back to this idea of like self-concept, which is also, we were speaking about this before, of like how could I have um the way that I treat myself is based off of how I understand myself to be, what I think that I'm worth. The way that I allow other people to treat me is like how what I think that I'm worth
Mm.
being treated. So it's like, if I fully believe that my self concept is I'm a friggin' amazing mom, I'm going to feel really differently about the fact that I'm also tired today.
Mm. Yeah. It's a tough, oh, and I think it's so contextual. Um, I feel like some of those hardest experiences really gave me a permission slip in ways that I wouldn't have. Like cancer for me gave me a permission slip not to have to stress and dive into drama
Mm,
all the time.
mm,
And being a single mother has given me a permission slip to be like, hey guys, I'm going for a mommy's going for a meditation and like I don't have to
mm,
be there all the time. And the things that I thought would make me a good parent when I was in a relationship have changed so much now that I'm a single mom. And I feel like that story has really for a long time, that's the thought of single motherhood terrified me. And now I just see it. I think there's just so many women that are rocking it now that I'm like, oh, wow, okay, it could be a single mom and I can take care of myself and I can advocate for myself and I can have all these boundaries that I didn't really believe in before, that I thought I was a martyr very much so.
mm. So is a lot of it also just having more role models? Is it also just the story and believing that it's possible?
And I think what you were saying about your community around you, saying that, how they
Mm,
reflect your story back to you. And I think it's
Mm.
so important. What stories are being reflected back? What stories can we see and what are being positively affirmed to us?
Yeah. Yeah. I was at a gala last night for entrepreneurs in Australia. It was this black tie event, and you can only go if you make a certain amount of money, like over $1 million a year or something like that. And I was invited to make over $1 million a year. I was invited to go as a guest because I've been doing some work to support them. And there's all of these I noticed in the speeches when they were giving out the rewards and congratulating them, a lot of the people that were winning were being affirmed that they're getting this award because they respond to something at 10 p.m. They respond to a message at 10 p.m. They're
Mm.
always available. They drive 3 hours to go to events. Like they're attending lots of events. They're doing a lot of things. And I, I'm not coming with an answer. I'm coming with a question, bringing us all a question because I have been doing nervous system regulation for burnout for like 10 years now. And I still sit with this question, which is these incredible leaders who I would love to be are receiving awards because they are constantly available and do a lot of things. And I struggle with it because there was not a single person up there who was verbally congratulated for their boundaries
Mm.
or for doing less, but being present when they are. They might it might be affirmed back to them in some ways, but I had a moment where I struggled because I was like, as much as we can sit, we can do this work, and I will sit with someone, and I sit hours every single week and sit with individuals, and we sit and we in front of this, and we sit and we say we are enough when we do less, and we affirm and we feel it back into our body, and we find the evidence in our life. And we have to do that so actively because in the awards ceremony, for as much as we have said goodbye to hustle culture and we can now work from home, the thing that people are congratulating is how often you are present, how much time you spend, and how many things you attend. And I had this funny reaction of like, one, I'm really freaking happy that I can help people counterbalance this. Two, I felt really secure about my job. I was like, we're always going to need people like me to help people because this is a thing. And the third one was like, I just felt maybe a little bit frustrated
Mm.
and worried. Like, really? There's, I don't know. I felt all those things. What do you feel when I tell you that?
That's I've it brings me back. So we're come from the same circles like 5 years ago. I think it was very I and I wasn't I was quite happy being like a stay-at-home mom and having my passion projects on the side and things like that. But also, it was very, very present in feminine business. If you're not earning six figures, you've got money blocks, or if you're not doing it this
Mm,
way, and it was that bro style of marketing was very much crossed over into the feminine style of into feminine business as well. And I'm so grateful to have women around me now that are luxuriating in the richness of life without having any of those external validators, dangling carrots. It's like
hmm
the amount of women that I'm now seeing that have been through all of that, been through the hustle culture, been through like, um, I'm loving it. I'm loving that it is becoming more present now that I've
mm,
got women like I have so many women in my field now that are like, oh, I'm doing so much less and it feels so good. And I can actually be present with my family. I can be present with my kids. My relationships are thriving. I don't need, like, it's stressful having to keep up appearances. It's stressful having
Mm.
to hit goals every month. And yes, I think it is still there. And I think it's kind of underpinned a lot of business since business probably first began, was like the metrics of it is what makes it business versus a luscious little hobby. But
Mm.
I also feel like I can feel it shifting. And yeah, I can feel it shifting and I can feel people like I would look up to some of those women that were like, oh, I just had a 7-figure launch. And I'd be like, okay, well, that's what I need to be doing to be successful. And I feel
Mm.
the shift within me. I can see the shift in other women around me where it's like, no, no, thank you. I just want a really beautiful, meaningful, purposeful life where I can actually be present and enjoy it.
Yeah. And because it comes back to that feeling of enough, you
Mm.
know, and also like maybe creating rituals and maybe what I'm desiring underneath that is like a ritual and some sort of institution where we actually sit with our circle and our people and we say, I'm going to give you an award for only doing things when you have energy. I'm going to give you an award for not being on your phone when you're with me. I'm going to give you, it's like this flipping because there's so much space for like the impact, the ambitious. I love that. I am like my midheaven Aries and Mars and like I will do everything and I love it. And I also want to affirm and have everyone else affirm that like enough is also enough. Like enough is enough. It's yeah, I definitely have noticed a same shift as you of people just being like, oh, actually, like I could just. Somebody asked me the other day, they're like, "What are you doing for marketing?" I was like, "I actually just have just chosen not to market anymore.
I'm so bad at it now. I'm like, I
I just
just,
don't."
if I really like something, I'll do it. Like, I love this. I love doing
Yeah.
podcasts. This is my favorite. I'm just like, this is my vibe. But I'm like writing my emails and I'm like, I should probably put some sort of sales pitch in there. I'm like, oh, it's art. I'll just enjoy it. And yeah, I could be
Yeah.
doing more, but I'm really happy with the way I'm
Mhm.
doing things. And I think, that's the award. Is like, no,
Yeah.
it feels good in my
Feels
body.
really good.
The
Yeah.
feedback I'm getting is I feel good. Like I'm not like yeah, I'm just not pushing through in the times when I
Mm.
don't feel like I have to anymore. And you feel it on the other side. It's like, oh, I have inspiration now. It's not like a desperation anymore. It's
Totally.
inspiration and it feels so juicy.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that feeling when you like in the stillness and you haven't done anything for a while and you just have that little spark come up and you're like, oh, I want to do something. Oh, it's such a great place to be.
Yeah, and you would feel that with that Aries midheaven. Absolutely. As a Pisces with an Aries midheaven, I can imagine.
Yeah, there's a lot of oscillation in my experience, a lot of both and. Yeah,
Well, you'd
for
have
sure.
access to the all through Pisces, and then that midheaven Aries, you'd be like, let's make something of it. This is good.
Yes. And then I have the Taurus moon that's like, I'm just going to stay at home and make some bone broth, actually.
Yeah. That is
What
such
are
a
you?
gorgeous
What is
mood.
yours?
So Sag rising, Scorpio, 12th house
Mm,
Scorpio, and then Virgo moon, but my Virgo
wow.
moon's very much like, I just want to help people and make, everything nice and pristine for people. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yours is so contrasted actually to mine.
Yeah, well, both got the earth moons. I love an earth
Yeah.
moon. There's something so juicy about an earth moon. For me, it just feels so natural, and probably because that's what I have. But
Yes.
I do
Yeah.
love it. I do love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much for sitting with me today, Sheridan. This has been such a blast. It feels like lifetime since I've seen you. I've changed so much, and you've got your book out now, which I am so thrilled for you. Best-selling book. It is just such a joy to watch you on your journey and how you do, you know, work from such a place of regulation and being able to and your book definitely speaks to this as well, being able to make the right choices when you are settled. And
Mm.
it's just such a joy to watch you and to be in your midst and to sit with
Yeah.
you. Where can our beautiful listeners follow you and join in your world? I know you say you're not marketing anymore, but there has to be somewhere. There has to be
Yes, yes, yes.
somewhere we can find you.
Um, you can go to sheridanruth.com/book and you can actually download the first chapter for free. And then if you're into the first chapter, you can go on Amazon and grab the book. I think it's $10 to $30, depending if you want the hard copy. Um, and then my website has everything that I'm up to at the moment. We have a course. You might find me on LinkedIn sometimes. But most of the time, I usually just send an email when I've got that little spark. So the best way to keep in contact with me is to sign up for emails through getting the free chapter of the book. If you are new to nervous system regulation or you're just trying to be more practical about it, like we spoke about it today, if you go to sheridanruth.com/regulate, you'll find this incredible PDF that is just, I've created it once and I've just been completely astounded by how helpful it's been to other people. It's been downloaded hundreds of times. It's just ways to regulate without much time, privacy, or space, built through polyvagal theory. And it's just really a good thing to pop on your phone so that when you have your moments, you can just be like, just get out the thing. And they're really kind of outside the box solutions. So, yeah. Um, Thanks for joining us and listening. Now, I'm really happy. It feels like we spoke yesterday, but you're right. It's actually been, wow, things have changed.
Yes, so
I'm so
much.
proud of
I
us.
am so proud of us. I just feel like, yeah, we're both in such a different situation now. Gosh, it just brings me so much joy to see you happy in relationship and
You too. Yeah.
thank you.
You are
Yeah.
glowing. Thank you for organizing this.
You are
I'm
so
really, really
beautiful.
happy.
I would love to have you back on sometime. And in the
Yes.
meantime, you have enjoy your love bubble and we will catch you on the other side. Thank you so much, Sheridan.
Bye bye.
Thank you for sitting with us today. It has been an absolute joy. If you'd like to work with me or connect with any one of our beautiful guests, you can find everything at perimoon.com.au. And until next time, may you find yourself all the way alive.